chat window.
Does anybody even go in the
We
chat?
are live. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode is brought to you by the great people at GameSurplus.com, where you can find the current hits, the classics, and the hard-to-find titles. Let Carmen and Elaine find your games and receive free shipping for all contiguous U.S. shipping orders over $120. Remember, GameSurplus.com. Great people, great selection, great prices. And in Canada, Amazing Stories in Saskatoon. If you're in the Saskatoon area, come by the store for Friday night board games. Play and receive 20% off your purchase of any board game in the store. Amazing Stories Comics is winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Retailer in Canada and nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Hey there, this is episode 4 of Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Luke.
And on today's episode, we're going to discuss, Ryan, you hit us first with what you're going to talk about.
Crystal Clans.
Cool. Luke, what you got?
We're going to be talking about Automobile.
Oh, nice. And I'm going to follow suit with Dice Throne. Dun, dun, dun. All right. We'll give a little space. And welcome back to Cardboard Conjecture. We are ready for our 3 in a row review. Who would like to start?
Ooh, this is the first. Yeah, this is the first threefer.
This is the first threefer. Yes. Keep it clean.
The old
I don't want to have to go check off that explicit. Yeah. Keep it clean. You know what? What's the timing, Luke? Is this a window for you to knock this one out?
Yeah, I could probably. Let's make it happen.
All right. Well, Luke, the stage is yours.
The stage, the microphone. Yes, Automobile. So, a few details about Automobile. Have either of you played it? I should ask first off here.
I have not. I have heard of it, and that's about it.
I love the designer, and I have yet to play Automobile.
That is good. Well, it is a 2009 production by Martin Wallace, the esteemed. I love Martin Wallace, by the way. He's a fantastic designer. Games of note that I really appreciate of Wallace: Age of Steam, Brass, A Few Acres of Snow, one of the most interesting deck builders that I've ever come across, and Automobile. Automobile is actually sort of wedged in between Brass and Few Acres in terms of his.
Oh, you got it. We got a frozen screen on you. He's shifting, ladies and gentlemen, he's shifting locations.
How's this?
There we go. There we go.
If you get the rabbit ears to stand up just right.
That's how the Wi-Fi is in my place. We'll give a pause and you can jump in here again. We're in for editing. So.
Yeah, punch it in whenever you want, man.
All right. The artists for the game, there's 4 listed, at least for the Mayfair edition of the game, and one of them includes the again esteemed Clemens Franz, surprisingly here, of Agricola, Le Havre, and probably about 100 other well-known Euro titles. The game itself was published by originally Tree Frog Games, which was Martin Wallace's old publishing house. That was the 2009 edition. And after that, it was picked up by sort of a Lookout Mayfair thing here. And there was 2 editions published specifically in the North American market by Mayfair in 2011. I've got one of them. Then there's a deluxe edition as well, which I'm just familiar with. And I can talk about that when we look at some of the nuts and bolts there. In terms of the overview of the game, basically it is a business game about manufacturing cars. If you want to get excited right now, guys. Yeah. It is all about the money. Money, money, money. You are investing in infrastructure. You're building factories. You're marketeering. You're selling cars. And you are trying to figure out how to manage and mitigate your losses throughout this game. That's kind of 3 big components that are going on.
This doesn't sound like a Martin Wallace game at all.
Oh no! And wait, there's loans in
the
this
loans,
game.
man.
There's loans.
Oh, there's loans.
Yay!
Yeah, we should do a whole segment on loans. But
Woo!
so, actions in the game. I mean, the game itself. I'll say this of it: it is success by 1,000 cuts. That small decisions over time equal big shifts. There's actually there's 4 turns in the game, and there's 3 actions per turn. So there's only 12 possible actions that you're going to get to take in this game, and it makes each of those actions quite important. The actual actions that you get to take, one is building factories, your infrastructure around the board, and it kind of acts a bit like a tech tree. If you'll ever look at this board, it's kind of got this is a horrible comparison, but it's got like a Monopoly looking track that runs around the board, which is kind of like,
beep that out, man.
yeah, which is like denoting more technologically advanced factories. Another action you can do is to take R&D cubes. Research and development is sort of like a second currency in this game that you need to do certain actions. You can sort of jump ahead on the tech in terms of your factories, and you can use them for executive actions to do advertising, marketing. There is the sort of all-important production action that you're going to need to take to actually produce cars in said factories that you built. There's a marketing action that you can take where you're actually sort of enlisting or placing distributors on the board to help you sell cars. There's an action to take closing factories, which is very interestingly an essential part of this game because it is all about managing loss. When you close factories, you're sort of mitigating the loss you're going to accrue, and you're also getting the capital back from those factories to reinvest at a later time. So that's kind of the overview of the actions. Like I said, there's 12 total. Something that I love about each of these actions, though, as I mentioned them, building factories, building cars, that sort of a thing, is it's not it's not a simple black and white action. When you take the action, every action is met with a decision space. So each action is packed with a bit of a breadth. I can build 1 or 2 factories in a space, or I can build 4 to 7 vehicles, depending on, like this. So every action you take, you are met with an immediate evaluation. And I find that really interesting. So it's not just that you have these 5 possible actions, it's that every time you take it, you are also evaluating how much of that action do I want to take, sort of a thing.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the kind of overview. There's also characters that you get to take at the beginning of each turn with defined turn order, and also gives you a bit of a bonus or advantage for that turn. It actually reminds me a bit of the Age of Steam auction without the auction part. You kind of, you sort of have the turn order for doing these particular things and whatnot. How to win automobiles? Just make money. And it's like a simple game in that sense that money is the victory points, it's the currency, it's the thing you need to produce cars, to do everything, and you just need to make more of it. I'll tell you this, though. I failed so profoundly at this game. I think it was only 2 times that I played it. Like, I've played it a dozen or so times now. And 2 games ago, I ended with less money than I started. So painful. It was so painful.
But that's a Martin Wallace success, though.
That's a success, exactly. Yeah. It was a learning opportunity. So.
That's
yes,
that's awesome.
Yes. I mean, and to make money, you might have to employ the Martin Wallace loan, of course, and you're going to have to deal with the loss. And actually, for those of you who are also familiar with London, those poverty cubes.
Yeah,
this is very reminiscent of that. You're going to be getting these little black cubes, and you're going to be paying for them every turn in dollars. So
now, do those, as in London Second Edition, do those cubes come back at the end of game scoring to haunt you?
Well, basically, on each turn, you are given a fee per cube that you have, and it increases from $10 to $20 to $30 to $40 per cube.
As you said, the paper cuts.
Totally, and these cubes don't go away unless you take actions for them to go away. So it's
giving up your valuable actions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
And there's some character-related way to mitigate well. But yeah, that's kind of the dirty overview of this game. I think it's fantastic.
Nice.
Should I go on about some of the my opinions outside in here?
Well, you go to whatever you want.
Well, yeah,
because the outside part, the box part, I can contribute to that one because I have a familiarity with that at least.
Okay. Well, let's hit it. I mean, I'm talking about the Mayfair edition. It's the one I own. I haven't played with or have seen in a physical copy, the Tree Frog edition. To be honest, it's a bit bland.
Is that the one that's got that vintagey look and a kind of the automobiles with the curved kind of chrome-esque?
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one. Okay. It's not overly colorful. It's kind of muted. Yeah, the box itself kind of bothers me. I think partly because it's just off shape of sort of your regular rectangular Euro box, and it's landscape. So you're always it's just a little bit different that way.
That's an interesting discussion we could have. Is just the whole uniformity of these games. Like, give us 4 sizes because we're going to buy the shelves accordingly.
Yeah.
Cool. So so outside of that, I mean, that's pretty.
The art isn't anything to write home about. The graphic design, too, if you've looked at the Mayfair edition of the board, is pretty busy. It's got tables and charts and like lots of little, like just all that sort of stuff. It really plugs up the board. It's very functional when you start playing the game. It's quite a usable board, but I can't help but think it could have been presented in a bit of a better way. It seems very off-putting for new players. It's not really that complex of a game, but it presents itself as a very complex game at first glance, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I just pulled a picture up of it right now, and it kind of reminds me kind of like a Vital Lacerda kind of board. Everything I'm thinking like Vinos or like kind of like Lisboa type of thing, where everything's kind of all jammed right there, but everything seems to be there.
Oh yeah, it's super clear once you're going, but I think it can be intimidating, like if you're a first-time player to a game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But is it one of these boards where the information that's on there is relevant? Where, I mean, it's like turnover or graphs or...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the track along the outside, that sort of Monopoly-esque looking thing, is important to
again
to determine like the order of sales, right? So that's very clear. And I mean, everything's very quick and easy to parse the information when you're looking at it, And there's a couple tables on there that aren't used to place anything on, but they give the player very relevant and important pieces of information that could have been provided on a player aid, but that also doesn't exist in this game, which is actually a bit of a disappointment as well. So
cool. So what about components? I have a few Tree Frog games, and I like their components. They don't cheap out, again, automobiles, that could be a different beast.
And again, the Tree Frog, I'm not familiar with. The Mayfair is, it's got basically chit-like components overall. Each of the distributors you can put out, the cars, the factories are all just kind of, nice, good, thick cardboard. I find the art on it is all kind of muddy and uninteresting. It's,
okay.
It really isn't that clear or unique in terms of, I would maybe perhaps want a little bit more graphic design to make it pop, but it's more functional than it is aesthetic.
I was going to say it's necessity over.
Yeah. And to be fair, even the deluxe edition that Mayfair produced has wooden components, but they again are like sort of horribly unoriginal to me. They're sort of the same. They're basically mimicking the chits, but in wood format. And so I find them, I think they could have done yet better with the deluxe as well. So you know what? This game doesn't exist as a thriving piece in terms of the graphic design and components, but that's again not where the heart of it lies. So
cool. Rule book, is that thing a beast? Is it smooth? Is it
it's
poorly translated?
No, it's for the most part pretty clear. It's well laid out. I think learning the game from it actually is pretty smooth, and it transitions between rules and examples in important places where you might have some questions. I was able to learn the game just by reading through, and that was not a problem. There's also a great player aid on the back of the rule book.
Cool.
But I think that should have been supplied as an individual piece for each of the players. I find we're often handing the rule book around just so people can read the, that back player aid. It's got details on each of the character powers and the 5 different actions, right? When you have a game where you've got a bank of actions to choose from, it's really hard for players getting into the game to remember, I have all these options, and this is the details of each of those options, right?
Yeah, it'll be nice to see the menu kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
okay, and the game system style to it.
This is where I think this is quite an interesting game. I've been trying to pin it, and it's got this Wallace thing going on that borders it's a Euro, but it's very economic. This one especially. Actually, as an interesting side note here, this is supposedly Wallace's favorite game of his own design.
Really?
Yeah, which is quite interesting, I think. BGG actually says that the mechanics within this game are commodity speculation and variable player powers. That's it. That seems really not fitting to what I think the game actually offers players. I mean, yes, there's definitely a commodity speculation aspect to the game. In fact, I think that actually is one of the off-putting elements that I've heard from certain players. My groups have never minded. At the start of each turn, players draw chits from a bag numbered from 2 to 5. Okay, they're equal distribution, like let's say 4 or 5 chits of 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that chit is going to determine, if you're in a 4-player game, 1/4 of the market demand for certain vehicles.
Oh, cool.
So you sort of every turn out of the 4 turns have, depending on your player count, 1/3, 1/4, or 1/5 of the overall information of how many cars are going to be sold that turn. And I think that's a really cool design element because, to be honest, manufacturing and marketing is not an exact science, right? And I think this game really portrays that well. To be fair to BGG, commodity speculation, you are speculating quite a bit. It isn't, though, that it's totally random. You know that the chit distribution is going to be 2 to 5. You can kind of have a good solid guess. And there are ways to manipulate it so that if you can play conservatively, for sure, you could play conservative, but you could also play a little bit forward and put other players in the position where they're going to get dinged if we all overcommit in our production and there's not that much demand, right? So you can sort of jostle.
Here's a question I have for you, because Wallace, right, game style. Where's the volatility in this game?
Well,
because in every game I know of his, there's something that is going to just slice your Achilles tendon. I mean, there's something that just goes right to the point with how it can hurt you.
Yeah, I think for this game, it's really a game of positioning. So that track that goes around, let's use Monopoly again here, the Monopoly track that goes around is the order of sales that cars are going to be sold during the market phase. So all of a sudden, everyone's revealing their chits, and we all realize there's demand for 20 vehicles, but we've got 26 vehicles.
Ooh.
And so basically what happens during this selling phase is that there's one car sold from each of those segments, and then it kind of keeps going in a circle until all the cars are sold. But what you can actually do is take what are called executive actions to add advertisements or discounts, incentives to essentially sell more cars during each pass of this sort of like a circular selling cycle.
Hey, Ryan, here's a question. Isn't that reminiscent of Arkwright?
I was just thinking of that right now. Just as you were explaining that the whole supply and demand feature and everything.
Everybody takes their turn, and sometimes you get to sell.
Sometimes you get to sell more goods than the other than the next player.
Ooh, I'm liking this.
It's at a cost, right? Like you got to either spend R&D or you got to grab the discount markers, which means that you're actually making less for your cars, but you might sell them all and the other person might not. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful system.
So what's the unique? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I had nothing. It was reminiscent of Arkwright. So maybe Arkwright drew some inspiration off of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
System.
So, as far as uniqueness, I mean, I think you nailed just that whole market wrench.
Absolutely. And I think what again I find probably, if I would call it the unique mechanic here, is the decision space baked into each action. So there, like I said at the beginning, there's nothing that's a black or white action. You are constantly evaluating the timing of when do I produce cars. In fact, that's when the whole turn order thing comes into play. Sometimes it's valuable on turn one to go first, but it might be more valuable to go last. And it kind of depends on what your strategy is turn to turn, and then what other players do. And then as you're seeing the game unfold turn to turn, you can also mitigate your risk or like jump into that risk, because each action has like a bit of variety, right? So
cool.
It's totally fascinating that way. I find it very, very entertaining. Yeah.
Well, here's the big question. Its theme is automobiles. Does the theme and the mechanism connect? Does this whole thing work?
Absolutely. I honestly, out of the Wallace games that I've played, I think this one has the tightest theme connection to the mechanics, for sure.
Right on. Right on. Well, throw down your conclusion, my good sir.
All right. Well, I think the main point here is make money and figure out how to manufacture, marketeer, and sell cars better than others. I think something that I find that's quite a provocative question is, again, how much of each action do I do? And I think the term interaction applies here in a very interesting way, because there's no interaction. It doesn't happen in the form of blocking spaces off or blocking actions. It happens in this sort of like meta level of you trying to read the other players, because there's a speculation thing going on each turn for the market value. And I just find, I feel like I'm interacting with all the players constantly with every decision I'm making. But it's in a different kind of way than a typical like, hey, I take this space so you cannot, or you have to pay more to take it. It's not that kind of thing. It's a bit of a deeper level. Yeah, if I had to make an image, which this may be very, very trite here, but it's kind of, I find this game plays out a little like a Jackie Chan choreographed fight. It's it clearly is choreographed, but Jackie Chan actually gets hurt in every one of those scenes. You know that.
Oh man, I just love what you put together in my head. That's awesome. I have to play this game.
So I have to say, it feels smooth. It feels choreographed. Like everything works really well, but you have to know you're going to get hurt. That's turn to turn. It's really good that way. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's Automobile.
So, okay, Ryan, I don't think we ever came up with a rating scale. Should we have a scale, or should we just kind of give it
I've never been a fan of rating scales.
No, me neither. But for me, at least, it's like a yes or a no, right? So
is it going to stay on your shelf, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty committed to this game. I think it does something that feels different than many other games that I have. And for that, it definitely deserves a spot. And I find myself not necessarily being like, oh, yeah, let's do Automobile. But every time it comes out, everyone at the table loves it. I don't know. It's something that really, sticks well.
Ryan, I think you just created our rating scale. Does it stay on the shelf?
Well, that's a testament to like us, like rating. I can go on a whole like half-hour rant about rating scales, so I'm not even gonna interject because they're so subjective and whatnot and everything. If you're going to enjoy the game, listener, I don't know, should just know the one should just kind of like know an insight into like what we enjoy, and so this is a game Luke enjoys, and so everybody should know that this is the type of game that's going to stay on his shelf.
Awesome. Okay, I'm ready for some. It's interesting. You and I, Ryan, are going to be talking about head-to-head stuff. It's this.
Oh,
not even dodging to take that. These games are about take that. So yeah, you get to go first.
So you want me to go and leap into this?
Yeah, I'll wrap this up because mine will be different.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be talking about the game that just came out this past year in 2018 called Crystal Clans. It was published by Plaid Hat Games, designed by Andrea Mezzotero. I think I got that. But developed by Colby Doct and J. Arthur Ellis of Plaid Hat Games. And my best way to put Crystal Clans is kind of like their best simulation of a knife fight in a phone booth. So
I love that.
Creating a little space for you to take your actions on, and there's not much space. It's kind of like Small World, but for 2 players.
Oh, cool.
So there's I was going through the rule book here just as the Luke was. I realized they don't actually have an overview, which is I thought it was really quite interesting. They just kind of get right into, this is the object of the game, these are the components, this is how you play the game. And I was like, oh, okay, they're going to cut right to the chase, which is not what which is not a bad thing.
There's no flavor text. It's straight to the mechanisms.
Yeah. So what makes Crystal Clouds kind of unique is that it's a 1v1 type of game, but there are in the base game here there are 6 clans that you could each player is going to control 1 clan, and each clan plays the game completely differently. Just as we all take the same type of actions, but the abilities of one clan completely are different than another clan. So kind of like your little like mini war game where my advantage, I'm going to try to exploit my advantage to the best of my abilities. You're going to try to exploit your advantage to the best of your abilities, and who's going to come out on top. That's really what this game kind of ends up being. And it's all done with cards, which is actually really cool, kind of cool. Very reminiscent of one of Platt Hat's earlier designs, Summoner Wars.
I was just going to say, is this like of the magical realm? Is it like
yeah, it's a very fantasy based realm where the clans have kind of like cutesy little names, where like there's the Stone Clan, there's the Meteor Clan, there's the Flower Clan, Water Clan, then there's the Blood Clan, which is like one of my favorites. But yeah, and it's all done with very cutesy art. Like the art is very deceptively cute in this particular game. Like you could buy this game thinking that it's going to be like a family-based game just based off of the art alone, and it's not. it's strictly just straight up. We're going to go ahead and punch each other in the face as best possible, and who's going to come out victorious.
Cool. So I love the idea of the asymmetry. That's starting to be a cool thing.
And so the main goal of this game is it's going to be the first person who can collect 4 crystals. And there's 3 zones on the board that represent crystal zones. And what you have to be able to do is, as an action, if you control 2 of those zones, you can take an action to score a crystal and just claim. And there's these cards that represent the crystals.
Cool.
And it's the first person to claim 4 of those is instantaneously the winner. Other things that happen in this game, there's 5 main actions that you can take on your turn. One of the most important ones is actually being able to summon your creatures onto the board. Every card in your hand is a creature, and it has some sort of abilities, and you summon them into squads. A squad can be up to 3 creatures. You just stack the cards one on top of one another. What the cool thing is, though, it's the card that's on top, the leader of the squad. That's the person's ability that actually that person's ability is the one that's active.
Okay.
Anything that's buried is not active. And so you put them all together, and then they'll have like this big fight strength. They'll have a big defense strength, and then what I can do then is I can take that and I can use another action called activate. And activate's the most complicated one because that's actually the heart and soul of this game, is being able to take a squad and then activate it. And activating has 3 different steps to it. First of all, if there's multiple guys in this squad, I can rearrange them.
Okay.
So I can activate it, and I can just kind of rearrange the cards that are in that squad. And then I can move one space only. And then if I end up running into another opponent's squad, we can fight if we want to. You don't have to fight, but if I do move into an opponent's area, I have the option that I can battle them. And then certain clans have abilities where it's best not to engage in battle.
Okay.
Rather employ some sort of other tactic. Just like I was playing the other day, I was playing this clan called the Shadow Clan. It's one of the expansion ones. And their thing is, don't engage in direct combat. They want to operate in the shadows.
Yeah, of course.
So their thing is just sneak in, don't initiate a battle, take a separate action to kind of weaken the foes, and then get out of there.
Okay.
Which was actually really, really quite neat. It took me a while to actually figure that's what they were actually supposed to do.
The little backstab and then retreat.
Yeah. And so, cool. Yeah. And then the whole battle system is very simple. It's my strength versus your strength. How many guys do I take out versus how many guys do you take out type of deal. And then we all select a card from our hand, and all the cards at the very bottom have some sort of a battle manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll play a card, and then Norm will play a card, and then we just evaluate it at the bottom. Like my cards, there's 3 different levels. There's tricky tactics, there's bold tactics, and then there's defensive tactics. And so if I play a bold tactic, then Norm gets to look at his card and said, okay, what does the bold tactic say that I get to do on my turn?
Okay, cool.
And if Norm selected tricky, well, then I have to see what does tricky activate on my card.
So there's a matrix that combines.
That reminds me of Warhammer Disc Wars. I don't know if you've ever played that one. It's got that similar kind of.
Yeah, I've heard of that system. It's very rock paper scissors.
Yeah, rock paper scissors. Exactly.
Yeah,
cool.
where one's going to beat another, and then you just evaluate, and some guys are going to get wiped off the board. Some guys are going to stick around, and then they'll allow you to take other actions like scoring crystals. Again, that was an action I already stated. Couple of other ones is that once you've played cards, you don't get to actually draw up to your cards. You have to take an action to replenish your hand. And then one of the last ones, one of the more complicated ones, is that actually if I get a squad over to your home base, I can take an action to what's called invade. Pretty much what that means is whatever the attacking strength I have, you have to discard that many cards off of your deck of cards.
Oh.
So it happened a couple times where I was playing with Jeff, and he managed to get to my home base and invade, and he attacked me for 16. I have the mill 16 cards off the top of my deck.
Oh,
which is brutal because one of the mechanisms is that if at any time that a player runs out of cards, the opponent gets a crystal.
Yikes.
So if I run out of cards, Jeff got a crystal and everything. So that was one of his main strategies, was try to get rid of my deck. Now, all of this, too, all costs something. And so there's an initiative track on the side of the board. And you can only take actions as long as you have enough initiative to take actions. And so what I do is when I take an action, like say summoning, and say the summoning cost was 5, I have to take this track and I have to move it 5 points closer to my opponent.
Oh, wow.
As soon as it crosses this imaginary line, there's this little neutral zone. As soon as it crosses into my opponent's territory, now it's their turn to take actions, and that's how many points they have to use on their turn.
Okay, cool.
So it's a very delicate balance of I want to take efficient actions on my turn, but I don't want to give my opponent enough initiative so that they can do things on their turn effectively. Yeah. So oftentimes it's cool. trying to tiptoe just over the line just to give them just the bare minimum.
Well, it forces you to have a more refined strategy than to just go toe-to-toe and swing a club.
Well, exactly. So that was a bulk of the game until somebody scores a crystal, because scoring crystals will blow that initiative tracker way to the other opponent's zone. And it happened with Jeff. Jeff scored. He's like, okay, the point of the game is score crystals. I scored a crystal, and boom, it came 9 points into my direction. And now I have 9 points that I get to use on my turn. Well, I'm like, oh, I get to summon him. They get to move, battle, blah, and then I like annihilated his entire side of the board. Just because I had 9 initiative and then I left him with only like a couple left. So it's a very delicate balance on how much initiative you leave your opponent. That's one of the unique things I like about this game system, because Summoner Wars didn't have that.
Cool.
From what I remember. So.
You want to start on some opinions of this?
Sure. The box going on outside in, like I said, it's got that very family styled art thing. Like you could accidentally pick this up off the shelf and say, hey, look, it's kind of got the like King of Tokyo type of feel to it. It's going to be kind of like a family game
with the artwork. Yeah.
But it's definitely not a family. I wouldn't say it's a family weight game.
Okay.
There's a bunch of strategy and tactics that go into, and then the amount of text that you actually have to read on a card
So are you saying the artwork is kind of not really telling the real story from
it's deceptively cute. That's my term that I'm using.
All right.
Deceptively cute. Component wise, well, it's a deck of, you get a whole bunch of deck of cards. Every clan has their own deck of cards. The cards got that nice little linen finish and everything. They're not going to wear out any day soon. There's no need to go out and like sleeve these cards or anything like that. They're good quality. Rulebook is really, really well laid out.
Except for the overview.
Lack of overview, lack of story of what's going on in here. But I can get past that part because it's actually laid out very well. Yeah, it even goes with the examples like how to battle, example of what a turn looks like, which kind of leads into like it's a very accessible type of game. Like I read this rule book once, and I fully understood what was going on.
Yeah, is there like a lot of those side case rules are probably on the text of the cards or all that sort of stuff.
That's where everything comes into, is where that was a whole bunch of the things that we came across, was that you had to read your cards very carefully because every clan plays completely different. And so like I'm trying to analyze what my cards are doing, but if I'm teaching this to another player, they should probably be playing with a faction that I've been familiar with at one point in time, because the amount of text that they have to interpret could be overwhelming to some. I've kind of went over the game system a lot here and everything. The unique mechanism, like I said, was that initiative track. Like I can only take actions, and it ever so creeps closer to my opponent's side. And as soon as it crosses this barrier, now my opponent gets to take actions.
I couldn't imagine a game of two stingy players playing against each other.
Well, that's what happened with Jeff and I. And if Jeff's listening, like this game is advertised to take about 30 to 60 minutes. Our game took us 2 hours. And I don't know if it was just the two clans that we picked were just two completely like defensive types clans, and no one was willing to make a push.
Oh, two cheapskates playing.
Oh yeah, it was every turn. It was like, this is just a zero sum. Like we are not progressing the game state at all ever. And
so Ryan, is this a 2-player only? Is that right?
Yeah, 2-player only.
Okay.
Which makes it kind of interesting. I don't know if they have plans in the future to expand it so that you can have like a team based or a free for all format, or because I know Summer Wars kind of did something very similar to that, where you could do like team based or the 3-player 1v1v1 type deal. So
yeah, it sounds like you could end up with the mix of clans where, like you said, you could fall into a modern game.
Right now the base game comes with 6 clans, which is more than enough. There's more than enough there to explore.
Yeah, do you feel like you want to try one like a whole bunch of times and figure it out?
Well, that's what I kind of want to do now. Like I tried that Shadow Clan, and now I want to say, okay, now I kind of feel I want to play a Shadow Clan over and over again, see if I can fully understand it. But that means I'm not playing like another clan. Like my other clan that I love is the Blood Clan, which is kind of like the dead type thing. They can come back from your discard pile.
Cool.
And everything like that. So
cool. Well, what do you conclude, good sir?
Okay,
I don't know why I'm good sir in you guys tonight.
It's very polite.
I think I watched some BBC before we started.
It's been very British Canadian of you.
What's that? But I shall say sorry.
Bring us back.
So my conclusions here would be it's an interesting game. It's not really one of those games that I typically am drawn to, but there's definitely enough here that it's worth exploring, which kind of that's what's going to stay on my shelf for just a little bit, because I want to explore this a little bit more. It's supposed to play quickly. I'm just going to highlight that part, but
yeah, because it'd be nice to knock off like 2 or 3 games in a session, right?
And my experience before I played the game with Jeff, what has been like that. Like there was a couple times where I was playing this with a guy at work, and we managed to play a game in like 35 minutes, and it was full. We had the full experience of like there's lots of battles going on. The board felt very tight, and it's just so happened that we were just progressed the game state forward. It is that knife fight in a phone booth because the board is very, very small. There's only what is it, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's only 10 spots where you can actually have your units.
Oh wow!
I was going to ask, is
oh. You phased out there, Luke.
Oh, sorry. Is there any modular options for the board? Like, is there terrain or anything like that?
No, it's all set out. You each have a home base. 3 of the zones contain crystals, and then everything else is just a space where your squads can move. So there's not much in the variability of the board setup. Just how your factions interact with the board.
Cool.
As the Shadow Clan can like leap spots, like multiple spots, just jump all over the spots. Whereas like the Stone Clan, they're more strong, just like hunkering down in one particular spot, making that new spot their new home base type deal.
Okay.
Yeah, so Crystal Clans, I'm going to keep it for a while. It's definitely drawn a lot of interest because I had played Summoner Wars quite a bit back in the day, and I lost out because it just got a bazillion expansions, and I could never actually fully devote some of my time. And so this one's at a good entry point right now where there's not very many clans, so I could play it over and over again with the same clans to try to exploit some strategies and develop some new game sense.
All right.
So Crystal Clans, definitely worth a check out if that kind of you're looking for that kind of a 1v1 2-player experience of knife fight in a phone booth.
Cool. That sounds great. Thanks for that, Ryan.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna bring in third place here. This one was Jeff when last Friday when we were at Amazing Stories Comics doing their Friday night board game night. Jeff handed me this game. He says, "Hey, take this home, try it out, tell me what you think." And he gave me Dice Throne, designed by Nate Chatelier and Manny Tremblay. Before I continue, I just have to say, those sound like 2 forwards for the Montreal Canadiens. I just want to get that. Nate Chatelier and Manny Tremblay, left and right wing. Manny Tremblay did the art, and it's published by Roxley Games.
Oh, Roxley
of the Santorini.
And the new version of Brass.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So the overview, compared to what was kind of going on right away with Martin Wallace, this is not as heavy. So let's just get this out of the gates right now. But so Dice Throne, here's the overview. For 1,000 years, the Mad King has sat atop his high throne seeking a worthy challenger. Each year, he hosts a tournament of champions with the greatest prize a hero could ever want, the throne. But over 1,000 tournaments, the Mad King has never lost. Heroes come from all corners of the globe, each with their own responses for seeking supreme power. Will you be the one bold enough to take the throne? Dice Throne, Season 1. The first thing I thought of when I read through that was, if you have if you're of the same age range as I am, Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon.
Tournament of Champions. Or very like blood sport for Jean-Claude Van Damme.
The moment I saw that, I kind of thought, okay, I'm in. I don't even know what it is, but there was a sound in my head. I saw this, I saw the throne, I saw this idea of Tournament of Champions, and I had this Bruce Lee sound in my head. What? Line it up for a drop kick. I was in. I was loving it instantly. So,
you mean what didn't? Wasn't that it had dice in the actual name of the game?
Okay, there might have been that straight to the wallet word dice. I will confess, I think I'm gonna have to go to meetings, right? But how does this nuts and bolts thing work? Man, when I tell you what the mechanism is, the immediate reaction is, what, really? But then once I explain how this whole thing is put together, That's where I'm going to talk about the uniqueness of this game. But the mechanism, it's Yahtzee. You've got, yeah, what? So you're like from that
what
intro.
You talking about, Willis?
Yeah, what you talking about? What from that intro? Basically, there's 6 characters. And they're all the traditional kind of D&D-esque characters. You have the barbarian, which is, I mean, he's the tank, right? You have the moon elf. You have a pyromancer, which I've played before, and it's basically you're the fireball maker and just make a kaboom as much as you can. There's the monk, there's the paladin, there's the shadow thief. So you have all these archetypal characters in that whole, fantasy genre. And each of these characters comes with a set of dice, 5 dice, your typical Yahtzee setup. And because each character is so uniquely different, each time you roll a dice, and it's your typical distribution of dice where the barbarian's going to have heavy dominance in his fighting ability and his healing ability. The shadow thief is going to have a lot of backstabbing. Is going to have a lot of stealing, right? So the dice, in regards to their distribution of symbols, will represent that for each character. Now,
so each faction has their own unique dice.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely
cool. That's
so
cool.
You've not do you just have 5 cool dice, you have 25 unique, like, custom dice, and I'm frothing at the idea of just dice, right? And they're all different, right? Yeah, it's not just the Yahtzee. I mean, the base game, as they said, if you're playing with kids, and it's an 8 and up thing, right? So if you're playing with just the kids, you play with just the dice. But here's the beauty of it, is that there's cards and there's combat points, and it's the combat points which is the economy in this game, because that's what drives your ability to use these cards. And these cards can be anything from upgrades to your character to some take that abilities to some enhancing certain abilities, and also too, the characters with their dice ability have these unique what is the word they use, the source tokens, where the fighter will have a stun and a concussion. If he hits you hard enough and so many swords, you get this extra effect on your turn. And I think even that level of I don't know, blend to this whole mechanism structure is very, very interesting. How do you score win points? Basically, reduce your opponent's life to 0 before they do it to you. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, just like your crystal clans, except for the hit points, it's, go after those crystals before they do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into this opinions part, because that's where, I can start talking about how this game really shines. The outside of the box, it is sort of a letterbox style image with the dude, right, operating the throne. I believe, what do they refer to him as here? The Mad King, sitting in the center position, and then you have all these fighters winged beside him, and you can't help but think Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon.
I was going to say the art on this one, I think they got right, because
you've played this, yeah.
I saw the box of this, and this one does look like it could be a family friendly game. Like that art that they convey does make it sound like and feel like
and it's not a manga style art, and it's not a cartoony style art either. It's got this kind of, I don't know, I want to say 90s comic book contrast.
Yeah, it looks like you're playing a comic book.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So the box, to me, it's one of those, as far as my past connection with D&D, I looked at that and boom, it grabbed my attention, that's for sure, because I was holding it and Jeff said, "Hey, take that home." Okay, so my instincts kind of came up right. The components, I can't say custom dice, awesome. I mean, put an exclamation point on that in boldface. The cardboard. Sorry, go ahead.
Roxley's just, I think they're doing a great job with components. Let's be honest,
Oh yeah.
When we go to the discussion, I want to ask you guys about the brass components, because I think
oh my gosh,
yeah, they're batting 1,000 in my book so far. So the player boards, nice thick player boards. The text is great. You can read it. They were smart enough to understand background, foreground when it came to reading stuff at a distance. So I really loved that. The cards were great. They had nice, big, thick tokens. I hate flimsy. Flimsy drives me nuts because I'll find a way to find the error in the flimsy and go, oh, I peeled this thing apart. Oops, accident, right? There's no way that the little destructive boy in me can have at these components. The rule book, the layout, the readability, the reference, it was, I think, Ryan, you nailed it. It reads like a comic book. Yeah, I don't know if you had a quick look at it, but
I never got to see the rule book.
It has, from a graphic arts point of view, it has an excellent use of white space, because a lot of the times games like this that are trying to be very colorful, very dynamic, can get overboard in the rule book and start to look like a Jackson Pollock painting, and your brain just goes overstimulated. I can't read anymore.
Yeah, space is
that's just my ADD brain.
No, I agree. I think space is an important element in rule books, right? Like,
yeah, your mind needs to format.
Absolutely. Chunking information, right? So
cool. Okay, so this game system and style, I mean, it's Yahtzee, but it's Yahtzee with some D&D Red Bull and a little bit of nitrous oxide when you want to use it, and the odd knife in the back. And holy moly, when Connor at school, Connor and I were playing. We played. We had played the lower character, the easier characters, as they say, and they went, okay, we've got this figured out. Let's step into the what they classify as the expert level characters. So we played the Paladin and the Shadow Thief, and the Paladin, like a typical Paladin, had all these charms and blesses and was so hard, easy to hit, but so hard to lay hit points on, because it was, this blessing gets rid of, a partial hit points, and this one gets rid of partial hit points. And conversely, the Shadow Thief was like all of a sudden, poof, turns into smoke and evades 15 points of damage. So I was impossible to hit. He was impossible to lay hit points on. And it was kind of like you described, Ryan, with Jeff, that it was just stalemate, toe to toe. It was basically who makes the first mistake. Yeah, the game. I mean, I'm so excited right now. I'm just fired up because it was one of those fun, straight ahead, toe to toe. Now, here's the beauty of this game. It plays 6 players. It plays 1 versus 1. It plays 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 2 versus 2 versus 2, or free for all. My ADD brain went, I have to play them all.
Well, I would definitely be interested in like the different combinations and see how the different dynamics would shift if you have like a 2v2v2 type of scenario and everything. That, yeah, it just sounds really cool when a game allows for a format or multiple formats in that case.
To me, that's such dynamic variability. And consider this, guys. What if I had a copy of the game and Ryan had a copy of the game, and then it's, okay, how about the Paladins versus the Thieves?
Oh.
Right? To me, there's such exponential interest in regards to this. You could do like crazy campaigns. I mean, that could be your next kind of expansion, is take these characters and do, a board journey campaign. I do believe they have kickstarted and completed season 2, which is another 6 characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I see the season subtitle is going to come into play.
Ooh. Yeah. And of course, Gotta like that good Canadian product too, right? Yeah, I forgot to put the A in there. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
The unique mech. I mean, that whole unique mechanism to me isn't the Yahtzee. It's the cards and the combat point economy. The little taste that you had with the game, Ryan, did you notice the value of keeping up with your combat points in relation to what you had in your hand?
Yeah, it was very interesting because you want to keep up with what's in your hand because you do want to upgrade your actions. And so that's the way to spend your combat points is to upgrade your actions. So when I spend these 3 symbols or these 4 symbols, now I kind of do something a little bit better.
Yeah,
I like that piece. That I didn't focus on mainly the other ones like the instant actions or the I forget what the other ones are, but I was kind of like focusing on like, oh, I'm just going to upgrade my abilities so that I can just do them better.
yeah, and I mean the what you're referring to is like the typical Yahtzee thing, like a small straight, because the dice, as well as having the symbols of the player's unique actions, they also have 1s, 2s, 3s, 4, 5, 6, so you can identify a chronology to the dice. So you have small straights, large straights that coincide with the symbols, and I think there's like 2 pairs, full houses kind of scenarios with people's different dice configuration and their powers. So the way everything comes together, if it was just Yahtzee, I'd be bored. But the cards, the combat point economy, those source tokens that you can, because of your ability, that you can leave linger around or help your own combat situation. I think this whole thing ties together with this whole battle royale, toe-to-toe, Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon, D&D. Whoa! I will edit that out. Yeah.
No, you won't.
Perfect.
Conclusion. I mean, the game's main point. It is what it is. It's a fight. It's a last player standing kind of thing.
Yeah, I kind of put this in the same realm as I think this is like King of Tokyo, but the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a few more layers than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the next step. If you're getting bored of King of Tokyo, maybe you want to you want to give this a try. Give this a look.
Put your chainmail on and try this one, right? Wah, wah. I mean, and again, coming from me being like old school AD&D second edition boy, what's the best part of D&D and thematic games? Rolling dice. Love the dice, right? And just basically smashing each other. I mean, when we played, there was Ryan, myself, and a student, and they basically both attacked me, and I was loving it. I had no flip the table, impulse at all. It was just like, yeah, punch me in the head.
I liked it that I was the pyromancer, so I had absolutely no defense. I just dealt straight up damage. There was no strategy. There was just like, okay, which one optimizes the most damage that I can deal on this turn? Okay, that's the one I'm going for.
Yeah, big fireball. Oh yeah, I remember that one. That was a woo kind of moment. Yeah, I mean, bottom line, it's a medium light game, like you guys said, King of Tokyo, with more meat on it, with more dimension to it. Not to poo-poo King of Tokyo. I mean, it's awesome.
That's still such a good game.
Yeah, and I mean, I just played it last week, and it was fun. But this has that I'm gonna hit it again. That Enter the Dragon, Combat of Champions kind of. And what I love the most. Go ahead, Ryan. Yeah,
it's not even more complex than King of Tokyo. That it just offers a few more things that you can do with your dice. That's really kind of all we're trying to get at here.
I think what I like that I haven't played yet, but I'm anticipating, is that 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 2 versus 2 versus 2, battle royale. I'm anticipating those ones.
Yeah, it offers a few different formats, like King of Tokyo's King of the Hill, versus this.
So yeah, is this going to stay on my shelf? Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to give Jeff the copy back that he gave me, but I will replace it and put one of those on my shelf because my daughter saw that. I explained it to her, and she had that look in her eye like, I can smack daddy up. Nice. So I was scared and proud at the same time. If you can have that. So, that being said, I have a little plan. I gave you guys some pre-podcast homework.
No.
And let's see if we could put this together. So I'm going to give it a bit of a intro. And all right, so welcome to Next in Line. This is a segment where we get to share with each other 4 games that we have next in line to hit the table. So this is not a lightning round, but we're gonna spit out these 4 games really fast, have a quick discussion, and then go to the next person. So I'm thinking honors would go to Mr. Rao.
Oh, good.
Right.
Thank you.
So
give it to the guy who cannot decide.
Yeah, give it to the guy who's got analysis paralysis. What are your 4 games next in line to hit the table, my friend?
Okay, so I'm going to go with a recent Kickstarter that came in. I just got my copy of Tiny Epic Zombies,
Okay.
which just came in. So it's kind of because I'm interested in this because it's got those like we were just talking about with Dice Throne, the multiple formats. That could be played pure cooperative. It could be all players versus a zombie player. It could be teams versus a zombie player, or you could just go full out, straight up competitive, and like the zombies are just automated by a system.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of looking neat, and it just feels in my little Tiny Epic lineup that I've kind of got growing here for a little bit here. So Tiny Epic Zombies is definitely going to hit the shelf or hit the table.
Oh, sorry. Number 2.
I want to try out Brass Birmingham.
Oh.
I got the Kickstarters for the Brass. I got both of them. I got Lancashire and Birmingham, and I have played the original Brass a few times, and Lancashire is just kind of like the remade version of that original one, kind of cleaned up a little bit, new graphic design, which looks absolutely beautiful.
Nice.
And I've got the nice clay poker chips that came along with mine as well, so they kind of really make the experience a little bit more enjoyable. But I want to explore Birmingham because it's supposed to offer some new variety, some new goods that can be traded or bought and sold. Type deal, a different map, cool. of sorts and everything. So I want to get Birmingham to the table.
Number 3.
Number 3 is I want to play Root. The new hotness of the cutesy animal. People are calling it a coin, like a GMT coin type game, but with the cutesy woodland animals that are going at each other's throat. The small little forest.
I may have something to add to this one as well later. Number 4.
Okay. I wasn't done with that one yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, then continue.
Oh yeah, because what's really drawn to me about this one is the complete asymmetry on how each faction plays the game. Because the one faction, like the cats, the way they take their actions is completely different than the way like the bird faction takes their actions. That's what's really intriguing to me about this game. So cool. That's what I want to explore.
Yeah, that'll be great. I've enjoyed a few of the coin games, and they're fascinating. It's one of those things where I think it takes players time, in the same way you were actually talking about your learning clans from your review earlier there. It takes players time to figure out, man, we're all playing different games,
Nice. Round us out, man. Number 4.
Number 4 is I want to play more Western Legends.
Oh, you were telling me about this one.
Which is kind of like it's an open world sandbox type of game where there's a whole bunch of things that are going to score you fame and victory points. But it's up to you as the player to determine how you want to progress this game. You could just literally be a guy who sits in a saloon and plays poker. Like that could be something that how you get your points and money. You could just be a cattle wrestler. You could either just get cows and deliver them to the local train station to ship them off, or you can take them and put somebody's cows into like another person's farm and like kind of like steal cows and put them somewhere else's farm.
All right.
Or you can be like a marshal, which just go around arresting bad guys. Or you can be a bad guy and go around stealing things from other players. Like there's so many things that you can do in this game, which is really quite neat.
Cool.
So I want to get that to the table more.
I hope to be a participant in all of those, because my number one, I'll jump in here. My number one is Root. That's the next one that's like in line next to hit the table. You hit everything, the asymmetry, I've referred to it as, what everybody likes, a war game wrapped in a nursery rhyme.
The art is so good.
And the meeples, I've never thought a meeple was so endearing as the little sneaky cats and
the cats have the shifty eyes.
Oh yeah, it's like I identify with those cats, man. My number two is the Yellow and Yangtze. The new Reiner Knizia.
Yeah. I'm really, really intrigued, Norm.
I have not played a single turn of Tigris and Euphrates.
I played Tigris and Euphrates years ago, but it's not enough to remember it at this point. So,
Ryan, you can weigh in on the Tigris.
I've played quite a bit of Tigris and Euphrates, and especially when they came out with the app, I could just play it on my phone lots. Like I think I've got at least a couple hundred games under my belt just because I played it on my phone so much.
Nice. My number three, Three Kingdoms Redux.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh,
nice.
I'm like itching to get that on the table.
Is that what
Three Kingdoms with the 3 BCB hosts?
Huh? We should have a Three Kingdoms Redux Bridge City board gamers. Drop the gloves.
Well, yeah,
there we go.
Because that game you can only play with 3 players, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's one of those, the planets have to align. You have to have the right 3 people, because it can be whoever's in the lead is gonna get their punch in the back of the head and climbed over top, and then it's the next person climbs over top, and
such an interesting interesting design choice of just making a 3-player only type of game.
There's not too many of them, but
no.
And you know what? That's a good segue, because the number 4 for me is Churchill.
Another 3-player.
Another 3-player that has that card that I believe it's Mark Herman card system that. And the conference table. He came up with this really cool conference table mechanism that influences your behavior on a physical map. So I've done my research. I mean, when you learn a GMT game, it feels like a master's class weekend seminar. So yeah. So I think I'm just about ready. I think I'm just about there. So there's my 4.
You've played Dominant Species. It's like second nature now.
But that's what I mean. I know the weekend seminar that's required to process that rule book in such a manner that you can teach too, right? So yeah, those are my 4. I mean, I would have put 1846 on there, but that's
we've got to make that happen.
We got to make that happen. It's like
tomorrow night. That's it.
I think it's not next in line. I think being a train game is just going to push its way through.
Oh yeah.
Segueing to Luke.
Segue to me. Well, I'll start with one that's already been mentioned, Brass Birmingham. Actually, I didn't actually pick up a copy of both. I just went for Birmingham myself, and I think it appealed to me in part because of the variability in setup, and I don't know, just doing my research on it, looked like it was going to fit with my gaming group's more. And I'm always up for a game that has eggs for the players who are playing it. If you know what I mean. If I got games that only I wanted, oh man, they just sit on my shelf. You know. That's honestly how it goes. So that's number one there. And we've already mentioned Roxley knocking out of the park with the art. Man, that's really a beautiful game. I opened that thing up as soon as I got it, punched everything, which, by the way, is my typical go-to. I'm not the leave it and shrink kind of person. I got to get my hands on a game when I've got it.
Gotta let it breathe, like a wine.
Yeah,
you gotta let it
exactly.
breathe.
I like bagging it. I just want it like the way I want it on my shelf.
It's a ceremony, isn't it?
It is a bit of a ceremony.
It's very therapeutic too.
Yes. So this is going way too heavy here and way too typical Luke, but I'm actually attending a very secret, mysterious 18xx convention kind of thing this month. So
it's so secret, nobody even knows where it is.
Yeah, pretty much. It's let's call it like Chattanooga 2.0. It really is. It's just a get together of a couple a good 18xx buddies here, and so we have a weekend planned in 2 weeks here.
Let me guess. You guys put the address in like stock market quotes, and you need to like decipher it or something.
Yeah. You got to crack the code. So we've been sending emails about all our dreams about which 18xx to play here over the weekend, and I'll just name 3 more since I've got 3 more slots. But
all right, respect the priority. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. So one of them, I want to get 1860 played again. That I've played it once. It is. Of all the 18xx I've played now, one of the most unique designs. There's pretty typical design elements to most 18xx. You can own X number of shares. There's X number of shares that can go on the market. Everything kind of has a certain rule set that flows through, and you know that rule set's going to be there. The designer decided, I'm just going to be unconventional in every single aspect of the game, and it almost isn't worth you knowing 18xx to play 1860. It's just so different, and it's beautiful for that. It's very fascinating. I feel like it's got levers upon levers and wheels. It's like, if you've ever been to our Western Development Museum and you've gone up into that old steam locomotive and you've actually been like, wow, there's so many knobs.
You realize you're not supposed to touch any of that stuff, right?
Oh no, I let my 3-year-old all over that, and I'm the 3-year-old in scenario. So anyway, 1860. Looking forward. 2 other drool moments here, if you can indulge my 18xxness.
Absolutely.
It's all numbers, and this is the problem, right? There's nothing exciting here. Eatman, I think, is something we're going to table, and this is the elusive 1827. Which, speaking about secret, mysterious, the renowned 18xx designer Federico Villani, I think maybe, he's an Italian designer, designed, I think, a well-regarded 1849 like railways on the island of Sicily. And he also did 1841. He's a well-established designer. He started to create a magnum opus. And this is back in the 90s. Okay, so this is 1996. I'm going to try to frame this appropriately, but it's the United States, and there's an east and a west map, and it's like he created 2 separate games and sent them out to separate playtests. The third map, and all combined, nobody had all 3 parts, but Tyler has got all 3 parts. And this is like unreleased, unpublished. I don't even know if anyone has ever put all 3 parts together again. We're going to make this thing hum. We are diving into the Indiana Jones artifact of 18xx on this weekend. I'm telling you.
It's like everybody's bringing the 3 pieces of like the Ankh back together. And
exactly. You're going to see like it's going to be magical. Yeah. So that I'm very excited. Very excited about that. And then probably hoping to get a game of, and here's something for us locals here, 18 played.
Sorry, what was that again?
18 Saskatchewan.
Really?
Ooh. Yeah. So this is made by a Calgary-based designer. named Mark Voyer, who has a number of. This one is yet unpublished, 18SK, but it sort of fits in that winsome flavor genre of 18XX. It's got sort of your basic 1830 rules, but it's set on a map of Saskatchewan, and it's just fantastically fun. He's sort of integrated a little mechanism where at first you can only build straight track. It's great. It's just I love when a game can integrate just a little bit of humor with a mechanic, you know.
And just so people who are listening, I mean, Saskatchewan, our favorite joke is you can watch your dog run away for 5 days.
Exactly. So yeah, there you go. There's my.
So, did you say that this game was going to be at the con this weekend?
Not at ToonCon. Sorry, no. This is this other little mini getaway.
Oh, this is the inner circle star chamber. This is the next star chamber.
This is yeah, exactly.
All right.
Anti-dice forge, I suppose.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, I mean, these are all like samples of games that I think except for now, again, not because I don't appreciate it, but it scares me to participate in that 18XX stuff.
Just leap in, Norm.
Do it, Norm.
Just cannonball, man. It's the Polar Bear Club. We're supposed to be in the water in the middle of winter.
You've played more complex games.
That's true. All right. Well, let's wrap this up, gentlemen. So this was a great discussion. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Luke.
And we'll catch you all later. Take care.
Bye.